All right, let's talk about something that's on everyone's mind: inflation in India. We're going to decode what's really going on using the official data from the latest economic survey. And hey, if you've got exams on the horizon, you're going to want to pay close attention. We're breaking down exactly what you need to know, from the big global picture to the surprising reasons your food bill is still so high. Okay, so this is the real head scratcher, right? You keep hearing that inflation is cooling down around the world, but then you look at your grocery bill here in India, and it tells a very different story. Why is that? This isn't just some abstract economic concept. This is a critical topic we need to unpack. So let's get into it and solve this puzzle. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the view from 30,000 feet, the global picture. Then we'll zoom right into India's unique situation, get to the bottom of that food price mystery, look at what the government is doing about it, and then we'll wrap it all up with a super concentrated summary that's perfect for your last-minute revision. Okay, first up, let's set the stage. To really get what's happening in India, we first need to understand the trends that are shaping prices all over the world. So the good news is, on a global scale, things are definitely cooling down. Headline inflation, that's the big, all-encompassing number you see in the news, is on a clear downward path. This is basically the result of central banks everywhere hitting the brakes to bring prices back under control. Now here's where it gets really interesting. We're not just looking at the headline number anymore. This is core inflation. Think of it like this. You take out the really jumpy stuff, like food and fuel prices, to see what the real underlying trend is. And the fact that this number is also dropping tells us the world's inflationary fever is genuinely breaking. And boom, here it is. This chart really sets up the central mystery for us. Globally, food prices are taking a nosedive. Now hold that thought, because what's happening in India is, well, a completely different story. All right, now let's bring it back home to India. And what we find is that our inflation story isn't just one single narrative. It's really a tale of two very different trends playing out at the same time. Now, for your exams, you absolutely have to know this term: headline inflation. It's measured by the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. Basically, it's the official scorecard for how much the price of your entire monthly shopping list is changed, from food to rent to everything in between. And here's the thing, that headline number for India has actually gotten better. It's come down to 4.9%. That's a really positive sign, and it shows that on a broad level, the policies in place are starting to work. But listen, the real star of the show here, the reason that main number came down, is something called core inflation. Remember, that's when we strip out the volatile food and fuel prices. And in India, this core number has hit its lowest point in an entire decade. This is the powerful downward force that's been dragging the headline number lower. Now check this out, because this shows another really important piece of the puzzle. We just talked about CPI, what we pay, but look at WPI, the wholesale price index. That's what producers pay for their raw materials. And it was in a deflationary zone. That means costs for businesses were actually falling, which helped them keep their retail prices in check for you and me. So that brings us right to the heart of the puzzle. If core inflation is the lowest it's been in a decade, and wholesale prices were falling, what in the world has been making our food so expensive? Okay, look at this. In the grand scheme of things, in the official CPI basket, vegetables and pulses look like a pretty small slice of the pie, right? Just over 8%. You'd think, no big deal. Well, you would be so wrong. That tiny little 8.4% slice was responsible for almost a third of all the inflation we felt. Let that sink in. Its impact is just massive, hugely out of proportion. And this right here is the absolute key to the entire puzzle. So, for your exams, here's a little trick to remember this. Just think of it as India's VP problem. V for vegetables, P for pulses. Simple, right? These two categories are the main culprits, the primary drivers pushing our food bills higher, the VP problem. And this chart just lays it all out there, plain as day. Look how the bars for vegetables and pulses are just towering over everything else. While prices for things like cereals, milk, and cooking oils were pretty tame, our VP problem items just shot through the roof. So why is this happening? Well, the economic survey draws a straight line for us. Step 1, more crazy weather, especially these intense heat waves. Step 2, that weather damages more crops. And step 3, the results? A supply shock that sends prices soaring at the market, sometimes for months at a time. It's a direct chain reaction. So what's the government doing about it? They're tackling it from the supply side. Think of it like a multi-pronged attack. They're putting limits on how much stock can be held to prevent hoarding. They're building up buffer stocks of crucial items like onions. And they're even selling essential goods at subsidized prices through things like the Barrett brand. Okay, so we've diagnosed the VP problem. Now what does the future look like? And what are the big long-term solutions being recommended? Well, the outlook from the RBI is cautiously optimistic. They're projecting inflation will continue to ease towards that 4% target. But, and this is a huge but, you see that fine print? It all hinges on a normal monsoon. That just shows you how much our inflation story is tied to the weather. So, for a real long-term fix, the survey lays out a three-part game plan. First, we need better science, developing new crops that can actually handle this extreme weather. Second, better education, getting the latest farming techniques and seeds into the hands of farmers. And third, we need better data, building smart systems that can track food supply and prices from the farm all the way to our plates. All right, time to put it all together. This next slide is your ultimate revision tool. Seriously, get ready to hit that screenshot button. Okay, let's lock this in one last time. Headline inflation moderated to 4.9% thanks to core inflation hitting a decade low. The big issue? Food inflation, thanks to our VP problem, vegetables and pulses. Remember the crazy numbers? Just an 8.4% weight in the CPI, but a massive 32.3% contribution to inflation. The key cause was extreme weather. The government fought back with tools like buffer stocks and subsidized sales. The outlook is for inflation to fall to 4.2%, and the long-term solution is all about climate-resilient crops, farmer training, and smarter data. And we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We've seen that the weather, the monsoon, is the big, unpredictable variable here. So the real question for the future is this: can we finally use technology, data analytics, and pure innovation to beat the monsoon at its own game and solve this food inflation problem for good?